If they want to get you, they'll get you. The NSA specifically targets the communications of everyone. They're collecting your communications.
Well, these days we seem to spend so much of our time and energy surviving and reacting to the unhappy events and the strife and the conflict in our overcrowded world. But the bicentennials seem to awaken a certain feeling, a rather dormant spirit that too often seems to be missing from our modern life.
Call it patriotism, call it a rebirth of pride, call it whatever you will, but if you mingled with the crowds who watched Upsail and the fireworks yesterday, or came down for a last fling like these people at the South Street Seaport this afternoon, you might have felt what we did. A great sense of joy and well-being. For the first time in many years, New Yorkers of all ages and backgrounds out in force, celebrating together. It reminded you of a small-town celebration of the 4th of July, an idealized Norman Rockwell tableau. Only it wasn't a small-town scene, not with these hundreds of thousands out to see the ships. Young families, older people, in many cases grandparents, parents, children, celebrating together. And if you talked to them, you found they articulated what your eyes were seeing, a patriotic euphoria. Bitter, angry, controversial years forgotten, at least for this moment, unity, reborn pride.
Are you a patriotic nut?
No, not at all.
Then what happened to you?
We just got caught up in the feeling. I didn't think I was going to care, and then when the day came, there we were. Just felt great.
Everybody is in the spirit of the birthday mood. Yesterday morning on the train, one lady came in and said, "Happy birthday, everybody," and everybody chimed in and singing "Happy Birthday, America." It was a beautiful spirit.
I think people are closer together than they have ever been in a long time. I saw us pulling apart 10 years ago, and maybe people becoming very antagonistic. I think this weekend showed us what we're really like. We're really one.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard to this week's edition of Thoughtcrime Thursday. What you just watched there was video, I believe, out of Boston of the tall ships and the bicentennial. Okay, it was actually New York. They're telling me it's New York. I know the tall ships were in New York and Boston from 1976. 1976, the bicentennial. Was the bicentennial a little bit bigger than the 250th, and why does it seem that way? We are going to talk about it, and we're going to commit a lot of thought crimes while we do it. But let's check, who do we have with us today? Oh my gosh, it's the original 4 Up Thought Crime. What's up, guys?
How you doing, Jack? What did you just do?
I just want to remind everybody that that video might seem nice and nice, but then they marched down to the polling booths and they elected Jimmy Carter right after that. So
that's a good point. You know what it struck me?
I know
how white the
that's
country
because the one of the major reasons that Ford lost in 1976 was that America still believed the lie that that Nixon was worthy of impeachment and that Ford had pardoned Nixon. And so they were sort of just mad at Ford over that.
But my point is the way that we can be better than in the 250 celebration is to make this 250 celebration so big and so impactful that we win midterms.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, are we going to make it big enough? It seems pretty muted. I mean, we're 5 months
July
in.
4th is when it's going to.
July 4th will be, but they had
big
stuff throughout the year.
We just did rededicate 250.
Guys, Trump's building an arch and he's repaving the reflecting pool. Like, there's so much stuff happening.
So yeah, I've been talking about this on X like all day, and this all started actually with my mom, believe it or not, because she wrote an op-ed and she was talking about this to me the other day because she went to Valley Forge for the 250th, or excuse me, the 200th, the bicentennial in 1976, and rode horses in the end of the wagon train there when Gerald Ford came, and that's when Valley Forge Park was. It had been a state park for its entire history up until 1976, and Ford came and designated a federal park. So this year will be the 50th anniversary of it becoming a federal park. And it's kind of wild that it wasn't a national park prior to that. But anyway, and she just always told all these stories about how it was so big, how it was such a huge deal, that there were covered wagons from all 50 of the 50 states there. I have no idea how they got Alaska and Hawaii, but that's what she said. And she was surprised at how this year it seems kind of muted. And what she was saying is that it wasn't so much about that the president, isn't doing anything and there aren't, these events going on, but just that the general mood of the country doesn't seem to be as swept up in the anniversary as it was 50 years ago. And that's kind of what I wanted to get into. So it's not a knock on anything the president's doing. It's just that in 1976, you saw this massive grassroots outpouring of love and national pride for the country. After a time, as we just said, we saw a president resign. We saw the Vietnam War was just kind of coming to an end back then. So there was a lot of tumultuous activity going on in the country, but there was something about that spirit of 76 that really took off in the bicentennial that we're just kind of not seeing this time around. It feels like it's more top down.
Well, I think a big reason it would have felt different. I'm looking at the numbers over time, and this is something that's been pointed out a lot. The percentage of Americans who were born abroad in 1976 was almost the lowest it had ever been in American history. I'm looking, it's by decade here. So in 1970, only 4.7% of Americans were born abroad.
How much?
4.7% in 1970. So a few years later, that had gone up because we'd started doing immigration, but that's still the lowest.
Wow.
It was.
So that was the most American.
Yes,
America.
because
so Jack, that explains why the 76
Everyone was
bicentennial was because everybody actually
I
was
looked
from
at those
here.
videos and my thought was, wow, we used to have a white country.
yeah, that too. But it's So we had.
Sorry, white people are more into like the patriotism thing.
But also,
Yeah, but also an American country.
Yeah, but also
there were
Black Americans have
people
been
in the
American
videos
for a
Black
long time.
too.
people.
It was.
who were
But by the way,
saying it's a great birthday.
just to be clear, Black Americans, I disagree with them politically mostly, but listen, you cannot tell the American story if you just tell the white story. You have to tell the Black story too. As much as it's been absolutely bastardized, and the Tuskegee Airmen were like not at all as talented fighters as the movies. It doesn't matter to me. You cannot tell the American story without telling the white and the Black story. Okay, they're as much Americans as we are. So it doesn't surprise me that you'd see them also being supportive.
Zuzu's
The
pedals in the
traditional
comments
mix was always like 85-15, 90-10, kind of
90-10.
around there. It's always been that traditional mix.
Zuzu's pedals asked in the comments, what
Until
was the
now.
percentage of non-Americans in America in 1776? Really high. We actually, crazy enough, we had
they were all
very high.
Anglos.
We had like very high immigration even during the Revolution. People just kept pouring in. Thomas Paine, that's one of my favorite facts. Thomas Paine was an immigrant who basically showed up and wrote Common Sense and then fled the country to go to France. But so that was, 1976 is one of the most American generations because we had high immigration until the 20s. We cut it off. And then that generation of immigrants got heavily assimilated by World War I, World War II.
You got to remember World War II, right? So my dad is in his like early 20s in 1976. He was raised going to high school, elementary school. All of his teachers were World War II vets. His college professors were World War II vets. There was nothing. I think those of us who didn't live through it, I think we fail to probably understand just how unifying winning World War II was for the body politic, for the culture
how
of
good
America.
for the country. It's so interesting.
triumphant.
So, for example, you know what caused the baby boom? Pretty much, like before the Great Depression, before World War II, the U.S. birth rate was actually only about what it is today. It was really low. And then World War II happens. We win, and we think, oh, we have all these veterans. How do we celebrate these veterans? Let's pass the GI Bill and help a bunch of them go to college and get jobs, and let's create all these veteran preferences. So male status for all these World War II winning veterans goes way up. So the marriage rate goes way up.
This is
their
fascinating.
wages go way up. The birth rate goes way up.
You've seen the graphs, right?
Yeah.
Where it was like status, education, like male to female. It turns out when you're male, the males in your culture, status-wise, earnings-wise, education-wise, is higher than the females, you get a crap ton of babies.
And so many other things. Like I think one
We have
reason
a
we're
whole
so
generation
patriotic, you had all these guys
that
who'd
we
served in
call.
the military. They got useful, even stuff like, for example, if you watch old Star Trek, this is a funny thing to go on. Star Trek is made by this huge lib, Gene Roddenberry, and yet if you watch it, it feels vaguely, it's like you're watching actual US military propaganda in some ways. Starfleet is this super effective organization.
I know what you mean.
Highly competent men. And it's because all the guys who made it had served in the military in World War II.
Yeah. And it's like even like when they go on missions and the way they talk to each other, you can tell it's written by, and it's in a lot of media from that time frame. That's a great example.
There's honor, there's duty.
Yeah, you can tell that it's written by people who are actually drawing on their own experiences. I think Kurt Vonnegut was actually in like the bombing of Dresden, and there's a ton of just authors and writers who reach back to Orwell. Of course, that was the Spanish Civil War, but who were drawing on their own experiences that led to that, and so it was this massive, forged, nation forging event. Like World War II.
We had a shared identity.
Creates that shared identity. And that's a picture of Valley Forge right there. You actually see a Confederate flag in that photo, which is kind of interesting that was an event that the president was going to and nobody had a problem with the Confederate flag being there. In this image, you can actually see Gerald Ford in one of the Conestoga wagons. That image, hold this for a second, that if you look, so the woman on the very far right here, that's my mom. In the brown, the one in the pink is my mom's cousin. They're on together. And the woman with the cowgirl hat is my grandma.
Ah, very good. That's great.
It's just,
there you
go.
It's a huge crowd.
So for the 250th, we have a few interesting celebrations that are very near and dear to the president's heart. I only learned this today. I knew about the UFC fight that we're doing. That's going to be fun. But I didn't know. Apparently, we're doing an IndyCar race through the streets of DC. That's gonna be something. I like that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, wait till the summer kicks into full gear. We might have a whole different perspective of this. But I think the larger point that you're making, Jack, that we are more divided. We're more ethnically divided. We have way more foreigners and their children here that have no idea, no loyalty. Many of them, some have them. Okay. And then we don't have this galvanizing, victorious, triumphant event just 25 years in our past, namely World War II, where we defeated the Nazis and tyranny and the Japanese. Instead, we've got, our boomers, our Vietnam vet eras, right? So Summer of Love, Vietnam vet. We've got many costly wars, and the cost of living is through the roof. And there's all of these, there's a sense of national decline, whether it's warranted or not. There is a sense of national decline that is pervasive. And so all of these things mix into this goo, this soup, and I do think it's going to be muted. And the other thing that I would just like to add is that, back in the day when we had a president that wasn't the party that you were, so if we had a Democrat, you were a registered Republican, there was still a sense that he's your president. Now we do this game, he's not my president. So half the country is instantly turned off to the 250 because Donald Trump happens to be president right now. And that's too bad.
True enough, and it shows the greater obsession with politics, because it's not like 1976 had no political split. The splits in the 60s were incredibly bad. The rioting was a lot worse then. And we just come out of Watergate. Watergate was psychologically devastating for America. In some ways, we've never recovered from what happened in Watergate. If you look at the general respect and status of the president in the 50s and 60s, and it's lost after Watergate. After that's when we get all the cynical political stuff. It's when we get, frankly, a big increase in like conspiracy theories involving the president. There's just a lot more sense that you can't trust the government. I think Congress has basically been stuck at 20% or below approval rating ever since Watergate happened.
Did Nixon do the wrong thing in taking the fall?
I think Nixon did the wrong thing in not having a bloodbath of his staff immediately after the break-in happened. I think that's where he went wrong.
He 100% did the wrong thing.
But just to be clear what we're talking about, Jack, you should probably just do the primer here, because there's probably some people that haven't got this full story. But Nixon took the fall for the sake of the nation when it came to Watergate.
Big time. And by the way, before we go down too far down the rabbit hole, so this had just taken place. Nixon resigns in 1974. So those images you're looking at with Gerald Ford there, he's already pretty unpopular as a president in those images of Ford speaking at Valley Forge. And he would go on, I pulled it up, he loses 297 to 240 later that same year. So he loses the presidential election. He wins a fair amount of states, actually wins more states than Carter. He actually loses Pennsylvania, which is the state that he's campaigning in right there. But yeah, that's a losing president in, of course, the president that no one ever elected. But again, to Blake's broader point, the idea was that, he was still the president. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go see that Republican Gerald Ford. It's like, I'm going to go see the president. And, so that was sort of seen as separate. The role itself was seen as separate from the person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. No, I think that's the larger point. The Americans could still put their nation above politics, and we've lost that ability. I think we lost that ability starting with, probably Iraq, honestly, and it accelerated under Obama, and it's continued to accelerate under Trump, sadly. Biden certainly didn't help, calling MAGA conservatives the greatest danger and existential danger to the country, and then the villainization of white America, the white supremacy. They still go on about how we're the greatest threat to the country. That's the most retarded thing I've heard in a long time. I really came to this conclusion. Like, I've known it's dumb, but the villainization of white America by the progressive left is literally one of the most retarded things. It doesn't hold up statistically. It doesn't hold up anecdotally. It doesn't hold up economically. It doesn't hold up in any way, shape, or form. Actually, white Americans tend to be pretty darn good citizens, and the country's lucky to have like a vibrant, robust white, population.
And go look at. Yeah, I was going to say, go look at those images. Go look at the images again. There's, does that look like a problem? Right. There's always so much lying about the left where they say like, oh, people weren't patriotic in the past. There was no Norman Rockwell America. That was all just made up. And it's like, this is something where there are people who, I'm sure there are people watching the show. There are people who remember it, that have living memory of this America and being this patriotic and having American bicentennial fever just took over. And I was taking, and I'd love to throw out to the chat, do you guys, if you can remember it, what do you remember about the bicentennial? The quarters were a big part of that. I remember growing up with like bicentennial quarters was a big deal. That was like the first special edition of the quarter that was made. Now they kind of do it like every year. No offense to Secretary Bessent, but it's just not as cool because it's like the first one that the first time it happened. Like every company was doing something, literally every company. Patriotic Zippo lighters, and they, which were made in the USA. I don't know if they're still made in the USA, but it's just on and on and on. Whereas today it's sort of like, I think Coke is doing cups. That's one thing I've seen at like my kids' Little League games. But other than that, it feels very top down.
Well, we've had some hits to the brand. That's just that's the bottom line. America's had some hits to the brand. And the hits keep coming, unfortunately. But
Tyler, you always talk about how a lot of this goes back to Obama, and we sort of give him a pass on it, but it really does.
It's all Obama, the whole thing.
It's not all Obama.
It's all Obama.
It's a lot Obama. I'll agree with you. It's a lot.
It's 100% Obama.
Okay, make your case.
The shift happened during it's very clear.
He started apologizing for America.
I mean, everything.
That's when you also saw a rise in the publications, New York Times, Washington Post use of the word race.
Yeah,
racism,
racist. That all blew up. That all starts to go up a lot in, I want to say, 2009, 2010. It goes really, really up in 2012,
if you just look at the graphs that Blake had just up, I mean, America was pretty consistent with its foreign-born population. And then obviously hit a huge spike in the Reagan decision, and then
1990. People look. Everybody goes to Hart-Celler, which was big, but 1990 might have been like just fundamentally bigger because we went from 500,000 green cards a year to 1.2 million. Yeah, and we've just been going on that rate.
And then
since
it's just been increasing ever since. And during the Obama years, I mean, obviously, the Democrats figured out during the Obama years, that 8 years was so devastating for America because they figured out all the things that they could do within the framework of the Constitution to fundamentally change America. And that goes to packing the Supreme Court. This idea didn't pop up until, basically starting with Holder and co. The redistricting games, part of everybody's like, you ask any old person, be like, hey, did you ever or were you even aware about redistricting? Nobody was aware of redistricting. These are now gamesmanship that was basically conducted. Again, Eric Holder and co. initiated this entire process. The concept of flooding the country with illegals, to change how redistricting is impacted is I believe the primary reason why we have such increase in foreign-born nationals that are coming to the country. You have a huge amount of things that have now changed. That now you talk about, California, the top 2 primary system. You talk about ranked choice voting. I mean, again, we lived 250 years in this country. Most of these ideas have sprung up in the last 15. And really, they got...
Judicial activism is another thing.
And they really got...
The national injunctions, the lawfare.
And they got their legs, again, under Eric Holder and co.
DEI.
They
all this like race crap.
Everything got changed during the Obama administration. So, I mean, if you don't like the direction America's going, and I've heard lots of people complain, they're like, I don't like that Republicans are engaging in the redistricting fights, or, I don't even know why we're talking about X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, because all of this was brought to the forefront because Democrats, really bad Democrats, radical Democrats who want to hijack the government, were put into positions of power during the Obama administration.
So we're hitting back. We've taken some hits to the brand, but we're hitting back. And I don't want to like people get like bummed out about everything. This is a big white pill moment. So the day we're recording this, if you're listening on podcast on Saturday, but we're recording this right now live on Thursday. So there's this big autopsy, right? Throw this graph up if you would. Jack, I don't know if you saw this or not, but look at the gains that conservatives have had since the Obama mania of 2008. Look at that. So in 2009, it was 60 Democrat senators to 40. Now we're at 53 Republicans to 47. That's at R plus 13. Congress, we're R plus 41. Governors were R plus 5. State legislators were R plus nearly 1,000.
So can I follow up?
State trifectas, where we have both houses and the governorship, R plus 13.
So my follow up to that is that some of these ideas and the people who are implementing them are highly unpopular. Right? So the Democrat shift, this radicalism to basically take over the government is I think organically, I don't think there's been like an actual great national narrative that's talked about this. But I think that people in general, Americans in general, have rejected that. I mean, the reality is that Democrats worked harder to hijack the country, and they've lost ground to this point.
Yeah, they tried. I mean, the question ultimately, and I know Jack and I have ruminated about this before, is you have to sort of ask yourself, how much virtue is left in the body politic? How much Americana is still coursing through our veins? How much patriotism? Like, that's a big question, especially when you've had the largest movement of humanity move into our country in the last 40 years.
We have 50 million people who were born outside America, but on top of that,
all their kids.
All their kids. And I'd say it also matters that I think they come from overall more alien cultures.
Yep.
And it's a lot easier to avoid assimilating today because you can, if you move here now from, let's say, India, now you can be on social media from India. You can easily fly back to India.
You get all your India content.
Yeah, exactly. You basically can live in your Indian neighborhood and basically live in little India in the U.S.
Get
and it's just
food.
Yeah, and you have fewer vectors that would cause you to assimilate because if you're an immigrant here 100 years ago, it's going to be aggressively pushed that you need to know English, but also you'll probably be Christian, so you'll probably be involved in U.S. Christian churches. Whereas if you're Hindu, there are not really any American Hindus other than Tulsi Gabbard.
But you made this point. I forget what the article was, but it was brilliant. But it made the case, and maybe you can remember.
Yeah, no, I remember. It's the Arctotherium to American nations.
So you talk about how alien a culture is. And somehow we need to systematize our thinking on this because if you go back far enough, let's take our brains back to 1880, right? You still have a majority Anglo-America America. And they were freaking out about Italians and Polish, and they were freaking out about the Irish. They thought that those cultures were going to be impossible to assimilate. But you had aggressive assimilation pressures from native-born Americans, from the economy, from jobs, from churches, from civic society. And it really didn't work for a long time. And a lot of those populations caused massive problems. What happened? You had the Great Depression and you had World War II that galvanized the nation and reforged a national identity. But the big problem is that it created this myth. The myth was we're a nation of immigrants. And that myth has blown open the doors to this even more alien cultures from the American core culture. And the question is, can you assimilate cultures that are so alien, that don't share your religion, that don't share a love of Western civilization or inherent understanding of it? That's the open question.
I didn't say this when we were having this conversation earlier, because I brought this up on my show on Human Event, but and I hate doing the whole like, oh, well, my wife, but so, speaking as a guy who does live with in a family where I have a wife who's an immigrant and has children whose mother is an immigrant. And I know she listens to the show every week. I just got to say it, though, she loves this country. She is totally assimilated to this country, not just patriotically, though, but also culturally and in terms of her background. And for our kids, when they're going around, playing Little League or whatever, they have no problem whatsoever fitting in, even though they are, in a sense, first generation immigrants. And they don't run into that experience that many of the people who, cite issues of alienation and isolation run into as first generation immigrants because she's from Europe and because the majority of people in America are from Europe. And Andrew, to your point, that it's actually okay to say that, and it's actually okay to have immigration from Europe. And yet for some strange reason, all of the Hart-Celler and 1990s and other immigration policies have always attempted to dilute the level of that population. Yet I just know from, again, anecdotal personal experience that when when someone comes over from Europe and wants to settle down here and have a family, it's seamless. It's just seamless.
I totally agree. Not all immigration is bad, even though I'm very much pro net zero immigration moratorium. Because at this point, we can't get what we want. Like you can't get cultures that are easily assimilatable. Because the Democrats don't
said,
like nice things.
Blake craps on Eastern European food. He's just completely wrong. It's so good.
Wait, I don't even know what Eastern European. If I'm being honest,
do you want to have some borscht?
Kielbasa.
Listen,
borscht,
I was gonna say like
pierogies.
if all it is like
pierogies. Oh boy, pierogies. You guys have.
I've had
you mean your
pierogies.
culture has meat surrounded by some dough? That's such a unique cultural
First of all,
cuisine item.
It's pierogi.
Look at Jack's face.
It's pierogi in American. It's pierogi in Russian.
Look at Jack's face. We are
Pierogi.
so,
I've never seen him this.
pierogi.
Again, is something wrong with them? Like, what's wrong with them?
Pierogi
There's nothing
are
wrong with
right,
them.
I
nothing.
just- I think
Pierogi
I've-
are
What's
great.
wrong with
I think a
that?
lot of
Nothing.
cultures have meat.
Jack, I'm with
dough.
you, bro.
Pierogi are
What's wrong with
incredible.
that? Nothing.
They're incredible.
I think
Blake has been on a jihad
against
against Eastern European food, Slavic food
Dude, you would
forever.
take
And is it
Eastern
poor people
European
food?
food
You
over
bet
a
it
lot of
is.
food.
It's definitely poor people food.
I don't even
it's like-
dump on it that hard. One of my favorite restaurants is when I was in Poland in Gdansk, I went to a baked potato themed restaurant. Bar Pod Ryba, bar under the fish.
You remember
and
the name.
Yeah, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's under the fish, man, and it's got 80 different types of baked potato. I had 2 types of baked
I see.
potato.
We're being asked to segue, and I believe our next topic does actually have something to do with food as well.
This is a good
doesn't it?
segue. That is
This
good.
is a very good segue.
Is that no?
I did not intend this. This was unintentional.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, Jack, let me do this one. Okay, so many moons ago,
Many moons.
a Polish American, not hyphenated, an American of Polish descent, named Jack Posobiec, lamented repeatedly online about the fall of a once great American institution. And that institution used to be the gathering point of American families, rich and poor, black and white, rural and urban. And that institution, of course, was none other than the great Pizza Hut. Now, unfortunately, like many institutions in American life, it fell upon hard times. It forgot itself. It forgot what made it great. But out of the ashes arose one who remembered its former greatness and called upon it to rise once more, to reclaim its throne as America's gathering place, where families could feel safe and play bad video games and put quarters in to beat their old records and their personal best, and have those plastic cups that were red and sort of see-through, and get the crushed ice. That's right, Pizza Hut is rising once more. And Jack Posobiec deserves to take a very, very well-deserved bow, because I'm pretty sure this started with your Twitter account, and an entrepreneur took hold of the vision that you set forth, Jack, and is making Pizza Hut great again. Yes.
I mean, I mean, it's just one of those things. Look, thank you. Look, it's just one of those things where it's like,
credit where it's due.
You know, during COVID, I'll never forget this, man. I had my kids, and I was just like, let's go out to, get some food. And I was like, I haven't been to Pizza Hut in forever. And gosh, I had so many great memories of, we had one within walking distance of my house where I grew up. And I was like, this is something I should repeat with my kids. So I go in, and it was a former classic Pizza Hut, and it had like boxes everywhere. It was clearly operating as just a DoorDash kind of place. It was, I'm going to say, it was dirty. There was like just junk all over the place. And I went in and said, hey, can we sit and eat here? I'm with my son. And I think Tanya had, because our other one was really little. And I'm like, what's going on? And they didn't even think that people could eat inside, and it went crazy viral. I think Elon engaged with it and some other stuff. And for years I've been talking about Pizza Hut nationalism, about how we just used to have these Pizza Huts that were centered around families, and Pizza Huts that were centered around people getting together and having a good time. And if everyone remembers, I think before, it was the old Land Before Time VHS video and the Ninja Turtles VHS video, that when you would get them, they would have a Pizza Hut, like a long form ad that was, front loaded.
Yeah, well, we have the ads. We have ads here.
No, for kids in the late 80s, early 90s in particular, it was like, if your parents took you to Pizza Hut, you were extraordinarily wealthy, and you were like really well liked. You did something really great in school. It was the book. Remember the book thing too? What was it?
Yeah, we have it. We have it. Like, guys, let's share some of these ads. So let's do the Book It promo first. Let's do SOT 5.
Teaching a child to read is a gift. The Book It program from Pizza Hut encourages kids to read by giving them their favorite food, pizza. And since 1985, we've helped over 200 million children discover the joys of reading. Because reading is a gift that everyone should share.
Man, we
That
used
looks
to have
pretty
a country.
recent. That doesn't even look like an 80s
We
ad.
used to
That
have a
looks like
country.
Dude,
No, the
that's like
90s were amazing.
Dude, that like the feeling of like getting to go to, like, because there was one thing, there's two differences. There was getting pizza delivered to your house, which was special. That was cool. That was like, but getting to go to the actual Pizza Hut and like walk up to that salad bar and like sit down, and you get the full pizza and like the full pizza experience with that look, like there's nothing else. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah, let's show a few of the other ads.
I want to go. I want to play that ad because, like, as cool as it is, right? It's something bigger than Pizza Hut. It's always been a bigger thing because you're trying to harken back to that bicentennial Americanism, that classic Americanism, family friendly, a community get together. And the minute you turn on one of those ads, you just get that feeling. It hits you right in the feels. And I think there's none more, and I know you guys like to do it because it always gets me, but now I actually get to be happy because it's happening. It's finally happening. Let's roll it.
Off in the distance, the game's dragging on. There's strikes on the batter, some runners are on. Then suddenly everyone's looking at me. My mind has been wondering, what could it be? They point to the sky and I look up above, and a baseball falls into my glove. I play right field. It's important you know. You gotta know how to catch. You gotta know how to throw. That's why I play in right field, way out where the dandelions grow.
As a proud sponsor of Little League Baseball, Pizza Hut welcomes all the kids who make it great.
Making it great.
Is that Goldberg from the Mighty Ducks?
Yeah, it's Goldberg.
That's Goldberg. Wait. Hold on.
The catcher?
The catcher is literally Goldberg. Like the
From the
most
Mighty
iconic fat kid from Fat Kid 80s, 90s movies.
I feel the need to point out that, like, did kids in your little league have uniforms that nice? In my league, we just kind of had crappy sponsored T-shirts that say, like, Bierschbach Equipment and Supply on it. I think that was actually who sponsored us. We didn't win any games, unfortunately, but
I love it all. I'm getting emotional because now I got kids and I think about Little League and.
Okay.
We used to have a country, guys. We used to have a country.
This show is called Thoughtcrime, so I'm going to provoke all three of you guys right now.
All right, fine.
I have a few things. One, I feel like a lot of this stuff, even if it went away from Pizza Hut for a while, it didn't go away from America. You can still find these things.
I don't know. I'm drinking strong, so.
There are still pizza buffets all over.
Yeah, but the point is that there was an iconic.
We had a monoculture
environment that was built by Pizza Hut that every kid yearned for. Like, if you were a normal kid in, again, the late 80s, early 90s, you wanted two things.
Pizza
a Nintendo.
See?
And you wanted to go to Pizza Hut as regularly as possible. And if your parents took you, you were like, oh my gosh, my parents love me. The same way that if your parents under the Christmas tree put like a Nintendo or Super Nintendo, you were like, my parents love me.
Well, okay, that's cool and all, but there are restaurants people like today as well. There are foods.
Yeah, but there's
like,
not like and here's the
there are no family
I just feel like people are saying
like
I
Pizza
liked
Hut
being
today.
12.
It doesn't exist. It literally doesn't exist.
If you would have told children in 1992, like, where would they go? Like, where would they like basically kill to go or have their parents take them? Most of them like would have said, it would have been an overwhelming majority would have been like, Pizza Hut's so cool because of this whole Book It thing. Like everything.
Kids did not love Pizza Hut because of Book It.
I'm telling you.
People liked Book It because of pizza.
How did we just like all know about it then?
So I'll be honest. I only mostly know about this from the cultural spillover. I think I only went to Pizza Hut a couple times.
No, I love getting Happy Meals.
Very popular. And I'm willing to suggest that it's, that there might be, some regional differences where people weren't as into it. Sure, that's fine. But
yeah, I mean, like
East
in the
Coast where I
Dakotas,
was,
nobody
it was
had anything.
everywhere,
but like
everywhere.
The reality is that like in normal suburbia in America, there was like, you were like blessed to get a Happy Meal. That was cool. But what's really interesting about this cultural iconic scene at Pizza Hut is that kids weren't getting toys and stuff. You were just going to eat pizza as a family.
Okay,
well, yeah.
You can still go get pizza. You've
going
never
to eat
lost
pizza as
the
a
ability
family
to get pizza as a family. This is,
but this
you have always been able to do this.
But this is my point. Like, I didn't even want
like, I feel like you
salad.
missed the first part of this where like I tried to do that and I couldn't. And then I couldn't find a place that was even like the original Pizza Hut. Like, that's what actually started all of this.
And now it's back.
Okay,
That's the point.
Right, and now we're bringing it back.
Go to a
Now
CC's
it's back.
Pizza.
All right, I will
Blake,
tell you.
Blake, here's the deal. We're going to get you hooked up. You're going to have kids, and you're going to take them to these
And I'll go to Peter Pan Pizza or whatever we call it. Peter Piper Pizza, something like that. That's a pizza buffet here in Phoenix.
Peter Piper Pizza feels like autism in real life. Like
I think autism
I don't
does
even know
exist
what
in
that
real
is,
life.
but that's hilarious.
Tyler.
like it feels like physical autism around
don't
you.
know
Like
what-
if you're in like inside the body of
Okay.
autism, that's what there was a calming. Am I right about this, Jack? The calming experience
Yes,
of
you're
going inside
100%
a
right.
Pizza Hut.
Everything you're saying is
was
exactly right.
calming.
And Tyler. And Tyler,
I'm trying
you
to
and I
explain
grew
it to you,
up on
Blake,
opposite
'cause you never
ends.
had this
we grew
experience,
up on
Blake.
opposite ends of the country. So I mean, like,
Yes.
like what you're talking about is exactly the same thing I experienced on the
Okay.
East Coast. You grew up in Arizona, and yet it's the exact same feeling, the exact same childhood, and at least experience in terms of this. And Pizza Hut was able to take that. I'm not saying there aren't other regional brands that have done this. I could think of a couple on the East Coast that do kind of get there, but there's nothing as nationally iconic as the Pizza Hut. And my point is that in Pizza Hut as national chain, you can actually see the slip between a place that was a family restaurant in its heyday that moved to the sort of like go, hey, just pick up your pizza and leave sort of place, as McDonald's, by the way, has fewer and fewer playgrounds, as is another sort of example of what we're talking about here, because they're just not designed for families anymore.
No, but the average American family doesn't feel safe in them. You get a bunch of weirdos hanging out at McDonald's now. Like,
Well, I think it's probably insurance stuff
It's also
with the
dirty.
McDonald's.
But that's the point. Like
It used to-
McDonald's, again, it was like exciting to go. Place was dirty and grimy. It was disgusting. Like there's like loose diapers floating
You always
around
got
in
hurt on the
there.
metal bars.
It's just disgusting. And you got to go like get a Happy Meal, whatever. Like, and as a toy, and like that was.
Wait, can we get a
that was
picture of like
exchange.
the old McDonald's playground?
The really special part about Pizza Hut that was interesting was that to this point was that there was nothing flashy. It wasn't like cheap dopamine stuff. It was you went and it was the family experience, and it was like you got to hold a plate as a kid, walk up to the salad bar, get whatever you wanted. You sat down, they brought you the pizza as a family. You're there, and it's this calming vibe. And it was like you spent time there. Like it wasn't like you're in and out, rushing in and out.
How much of this is legitimately back to our first conversation, like immigration? Like I'll just thought crime it. Okay, so an average white family in 1980 would go to a 90% white neighborhood, McDonald's, poor people, rich people, but they shared the same culture.
Yeah.
And they would go and it felt like you were next to your neighbor. And now you go there and it's like you've got people you don't relate to, they don't share culture. Some of them are like make you feel unsafe, and it just kind of loses its luster. You see this with public parks.
This is what I'm
too.
going to say. I think some of this is. I'll be honest. I think it's on white people because first of all, you say it feels unsafe. America was way more unsafe in the 80s. 1980s, that like the period we're remembering, is peak murder wave America.
Part of its vibes.
America
How you
now
feel.
is super safe. Yeah, that's how you feel.
How
but
you feel.
get over it. Like
okay, why do people feel that way? If let's assume concede me the point.
I think
that
a lot of
they do
people.
feel that
I think
way
a lot of people are. I think we have helicopter paranoid. I think a lot of people are paranoid. I think they've trained themselves to
It's possible,
be
like a little bit of, like,
paranoid
social
and to
media
be downbeat.
brain.
And I also think a lot of this is also. I think white people have elevated their expectations for food, so they feel irresponsible taking their kids to a bunch of junk food, a giant junk food buffet. Like, oh, should I actually feed my kids a ton of pizza at a buffet?
We take our kids to like parties all the time at like these trampoline parks.
Yeah, but that's also
which
the
we
whole
didn't
Maha
have.
movement is about that.
Which
It's
also
literally the whole Maha movement
but
you're
those
talking
trampoline
about.
parks-
There's a massive political movement, like literally dedicated to this question.
The real life autism thing though is like what your trampoline parks feel like.
What do you mean by real life autism? What's
Like
not
everything's like
real life autism?
all the sensory stuff.
Oh, it's just
like
sensory
overload.
overload.
Overload. It's like kids everywhere. It smells like it's disgusting. Like it's
But
dirty.
it's only my kids love it because they're
no,
kids.
I know. We, like the same
We
way that we
loved it
love
because
like
we were
it
kids.
smells
plates
and it's
at
dirty. You don't think
McDonald's.
Pizza Hut had like
No, but
garbage or not
but the
garbage,
point-
but like dirt and grime everywhere in the 80s? 80s was a pretty dirty, grimy time.
No, but the point is like I just threw in the chat is like there was a totally different vibe to this. The point is the kids like the sensory
I think
overload.
the vibe was just that you yourself were
No,
like
kid.
8.
thousands of people.
There's
like,
probably a little bit of both going
But
on.
my point is like the kids still like the sensory overload stuff that still exists. It looks different now. Like you have like
Yeah, what
jump
I was
parks.
gonna say is we do pizza party. So when we do a birthday party at a trampoline park, right? They have a venue where like a person comes in, they light a cake, they cut the cake, they serve the cake to the kids, and then when they have usually serve pizza. So it's not a Pizza Hut, but you know,
the Pizza Hut of the '90s was like. Again, it was the vibe. It was different. Like kids wanted it.
Wait, hold on.
But the fact I'm saying it's just weird that kids wanted it.
Here we go. We don't have to play this whole thing, but I feel like we're missing a big chunk of this conversation because this is what the guy did to fulfill Jack's vision. Maybe we don't have it loaded yet. Do we have it loaded? But this, I wanted to make sure we actually played the story because this guy's been putting this out there. I think he's at like 80 locations. These Pizza Huts again. Is it loaded, guys? I'm sorry if it's not.
I have a second video I just dropped into.
Loaded. Okay, 37. You can play. You don't have to play the whole thing, but go ahead. 37.
You miss it at night. Like they need a good video at night.
Pennsylvania, a familiar red roof catches the eye. Inside, the vinyl booths, Tiffany-style lamps, and yes, the salad bar you may remember from decades ago.
I mean, it's amazing the comments we have about they have the red cups. Yes, we do.
Tim Sparks got his start working at a Pizza Hut that looked like this. He's now president of Dayland Corporation, which owns this franchise and more than 80 others around the country. They've redecorated many restaurants to rewind the clock.
It looks exactly like the one that I remember from when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's what we were after.
Some Pizza Hut classics are now top-performing locations. Customers show up for a piece of their childhood.
It just brings back memories.
To share with their own kids.
When you finally find something that tastes how you genuinely remember it tasting, like you can't let it go.
People come from 2 and 3 hours away, and I'm not making that up.
More restaurants are serving up nostalgia. Franchises like Burger King and KFC return to old-school logos and packaging in recent years. At Pizza Hut, they even brought back Pac-Man. But for Sparks... this is much more than a game. It's a mission to rebuild places where families can connect.
If we could get them in here as a family, they do tend to put their phones down and actually have conversations and speak with each other. I'm not going to tell you I know how to fix the world, but I do think that family is a good place to start.
He hopes to renovate more of his restaurants as long as he can find enough of those lamps.
They're hard to get?
Yeah, they're almost impossible to get.
A familiar taste.
Well, cheers.
Cheers, bro.
Bringing people together.
Just like I remember it.
Again, Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's like lost technology. Like, oh, we can't make.
We've got to go to China
anymore.
to get the.
We probably would.
Americana.
You probably would have to go to China to remake them from scratch.
But I love that guy's whole vibe. He's like, I don't know much, and I don't know how to fix everything, but family's a pretty good place
I like
to
it,
start.
but it does stand out to me.
This guy's
the people
a freaking
they show,
genius.
they're saying, "Oh, it's a piece of my childhood. I want to revisit that."
Okay,
like,
I was just
okay, that's
thinking about
cool,
this,
but
you know what's upsetting me?
Time out. These are in Pennsylvania. So Jack, you get to go to these?
Yeah, have you been to one, Jack?
They are not in my corner of Pennsylvania. These are like central PA. So we, funny enough, we actually haven't been to one yet.
What are you waiting on, dude?
Okay, let's hold on. Where it's
no, because it's I would have to be one of those guys driving 2-3 hours.
Tunkhannock. Okay, you have to drive 3 hours. Okay.
So
it's like normal
you know what
South
this
Dakota
is like,
drive.
but like, okay. So I'm a Dodger fan. Everybody hates on me for okay, whatever. You know what upsets me though, and they talked about this, how like Burger King's going back to old logos, KFC's going back to old logos. For the love of God, baseball, stop doing this like University of Oregon garbage where you're like changing up your jersey all the time. Give me the iconic, like the old school. You know, you saw it with the Little League thing. They were the old school baseball jerseys. They look great.
You know, the Eagles and the Phillies have been doing it. The Eagles and Phillies have been bringing back the classic jerseys, and it's amazing.
So much better.
It's so good.
So much better. Anyways, that's just like a small.
I think we have
peeve.
37. Just shows you the walkthrough of the Pizza Hut classic.
All right. Wait, I thought you wanted the playgrounds from McDonald's.
Oh no, 30 is 37. Yeah, this is the walkthrough. This is the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, and again, nighttime, it's a totally different vibe. Like those lamps at night.
Oh yeah.
Caboose is just like nostalgia baiting everybody. Like, it's true. We are.
I was joking when I put this up the first time. I even pointed out that they should really nostalgia bait these for for like elder millennial Gen Y parents, but even like, working in for like the TikTok generation. So you should set up like old TVs and have like The Land Before Time playing and stuff like that throughout the theater, throughout the places.
What's so
and just
funny
have,
about
like,
this?
Just like go lean in and absolutely embrace all of it.
What's funny about this is in some sense, it's actually the opposite of making it more. I don't want to say the opposite, but it's not quite related to making it more pro-family, because if you're deliberately nostalgia baiting millennials, you're basically saying we're aiming this you're actually kind of saying I'm aiming this at childless millennials in their 30s and 40s. Because parents go where their kids want to go.
No. Parents.
Pizza Hut in the 80s was designed to appeal to children in the 80s.
Blake, you're wrong.
Now it's designed to appeal to people who were children in the 80s.
Parents have a combination of
I get what you're
appeasing
saying.
their children
but
with
it won't work if you don't have kids.
No, but appeasing your children with what they want and then showing kids what you like. Parents, part of the reason why I totally agree. There's a totally weird, Disney adult thing that exists. And there's a certain, and there's people who will show up to this because of that. But there's also a huge base of consumers that want to show their kids like their experiences.
They do, although
but a big portion, I think that an underrepresented portion of Disneyland is parents forcing their kids to go on rides they liked when they were young. I make my kids go to the Tiki Room every time.
And I wonder
is it one of the most boring things at Disneyland? Yeah, but I like the Tiki Room because my dad liked the Tiki Room.
You know what's crazy?
This is like my dad making me listen
Tyler,
to John Prine albums.
Do you like going in the Tiki Room?
Every time.
So
without a doubt, you do not go to Disneyland without going on the boring old rides.
This last
every
week,
time.
this last week, my kids have been like, we want to go to IHOP. It's the strangest thing, and I'm like, why do you want to go? No, we can't go to IHOP. It's it's 8 at night. We're not going to. And they're like, they're obsessed with the idea that something is open 24/7. That's all it is.
They don't want
like
the funny
kids are
face.
strange.
Well, we lost a lot of that during COVID. We lost a lot of 24/7 operations.
That's true. Here, play the you asked for it, Jack. They put it together. The playground at McDonald's, the old school playground. So play some.
I just wanted a picture.
Oh, they put together a whole B-roll thing of it.
No, that's not the old one. That's the old one.
That's old. Yeah.
Yeah, with the Hamburglar jail.
Yeah.
That was like
I distinctly remember crawling around in that thing.
Another thing I'll say, one reason some of this stuff has gone in decline is there's like cooler versions of it. Like we have that Andretti adventure stuff or whatever on the fringes of town here. Like you can go to like
race cars.
Yeah, it's like big deluxe go-karting and virtual reality stuff. Like that stuff is way cooler than...
Yeah, it is actually. Like
it used to be cool
point.
Actual reality.
No, these are actual go-karts that you're racing, and they're like e-karts now, so they're not even loud, and they go really fast. So we did one of those. Trampoline parks are also, like I said, there's this place called Slick City in town that's like a new thing that wasn't around, where you get on a mat and you go down these really cool slides. That is legitimately cooler than what we had.
Yeah.
So there is a point to be made.
I think people, I get why people miss this sort of thing. It's a lot of us miss things from our childhood. What I will note is you can tell this is a somewhat universal thing because I am now seeing young millennials, old Gen Z, who have nostalgia for things from the early 2000s that I know were terrible.
So, but what is driving the nostalgia? That's the question. That's the deeper question.
I think it's a natural feeling.
It's the same thing as the bicentennial versus 250th. It's the same.
People miss things from when they were
exact dynamic.
I think then there's a market for
it. In fact, an interesting thing is it varies over time too. I have strong memories of like when I was in my early 20s, just out of college, I would experience nostalgia feelings all the time for stuff from my childhood. And I think it's probably mingled with maybe the amount of change that comes from living independently for the first time. You've moved out of home. You're experiencing life in a new way for the first time. It's mildly depressing to do this. You might be homesick if you've moved across the country. All of this comes together. And this manifested in weird ways. Like I was collecting Super Nintendo games because I had nostalgia for that sort of thing. And what I will note is I don't dislike those things from my childhood, but I don't have nearly as much nostalgia for them either, where because nostalgia, it's mingled with depression. That's when everyone's saying we used to have a country. Everyone's sad about not having this thing anymore, and I think that's even what the word itself comes from. It's like a combination of like memory and sorrow, something like that. And I just think you actually, as you age, you do age out of these things, or you hopefully outgrow these things, and you can love things from your past, but also love things from the present, and have more perspective on stuff. I say that all because
I'll
I can
push back
see
on that a little bit because you do also have such a thing as tradition, right? And this is where like Lindy Man comes in, and the concept of Lindy, that some things are fads, to be sure. Like I don't have nostalgia for like Pogs, or like Alf, or what was that one show, like the Herman and the like the alien thing? I don't know.
Favorite Martian.
Tanya was into that. But there are certain things that do become traditions, and traditions do become something that you can hand down. And so, baseball. No, it wasn't Alf. It was a different one. And so like Little League Baseball is a huge one of those where, I haven't really been following baseball for years, but now my kids are into it and they love playing Little League Baseball. And it's like, oh, so we're a baseball family, all over again. And they're like begging me to take them to games and, all sorts of things. And it's like that. I don't just have nostalgia for, my memories of it. It's like, that's a tradition that I had, that my dad had, and now my kids have.
So there's a Bible verse that's interesting. Ecclesiastes 7:10. And it goes like this: "Say not, why were the former days better than these? For it is not from wisdom that you ask this."
So one thing I wanted to bring up was this commercial. Do we have it ready? Do we have it? Not yet. Okay, never mind. All right.
One thing at a time. I mean, we have other Pizza Hut commercials.
Well, and I do want to get to this caller daddy.
What's the other Pizza Hut commercial?
We had like 8. You guys.
Wait, can I throw another piece on this just to talk about that?
Slice.
So another slice, yeah. So another topping maybe, and that. If there were, if there wasn't a market for this, people wouldn't be putting all this money into it. That's for sure. It's a huge gamble, and it seems to be popular right now. We will see if it goes well. I certainly think it will. If there were other places that people could go to get the same experience, then they wouldn't be making all of these Pizza Huts, the Pizza Hut classics again, because that shows that there isn't an alternative. But also, like, when you go to countries like in Eastern Europe, like Hungary, like Poland, and even just European airports in general, you find them to be very, very much more family friendly and family oriented. There's kid stuff everywhere. There's so many outlets for like kids. You go to a nice restaurant in Poland and they have a kids area right at the front, and they say, "Hey, drop your kids off here, mom and dad. You can go."
Yeah, but there's places like that
and have a nice dinner.
There's places like that. So for example, I went from LA to Santa Barbara. LA was terrible for kids, just terrible. Santa Barbara, much better, much more kid friendly. And then we went from Santa Barbara to Phoenix, and I would say Phoenix is even better still. There's tons of kids options in Phoenix for like all this stuff. You can go to a gym and they have kid childcare. You can go to a restaurant.
But did you have kid options like Clip 40?
Running swing here. I don't think so. Climb and slide here. I don't think so. Then where? I'm going DC at Discovery Zone, where I can cut loose and be on my own.
DC is made just for me, the place where I can really cut loose. It's all here.
Jump and tumble here? I don't think so. I'm going
DZ.
Yes, we have
what kids
like
want to
that.
be.
Yeah,
so by the way,
wait, hold on.
Those places are coming back. There's a bunch of chains that are very similar to Discovery Zone now.
Discovery Zone was a kingdom, and it was the only thing that existed, and you got in there, and there was endless tunnels.
How long do you
think? McDonald's were like small, cheaper versions of it.
How long do you think Discovery Zone existed?
Like 5 years.
Yeah, actually it was 10 years, but yeah, it was not.
It was like nothing.
It was also
they went out of business.
But there's a lot of places
and
like
a prominent
that
investor was actually. This is an amazing way to segue to our next topic because a prominent investor was tennis star Billie Jean King.
Was it really?
How does that segue to our
Because she is a feminist icon for her fake tennis match against that one drunk male tennis player that she beat. And it proved that women could be as good as men if you ignore the fact that she was the #1 tennis player in the world and the guy was like the 400th best tennis player in the world and was smoking and drinking and was also basically paid to throw the match anyway.
Was he really?
Yeah.
I love
and that we had a real match between Venus and Serena Williams and male tennis player who was actually trying, who was ranked like 200th, and he absolutely annihilated them.
Of course he did.
True story. But anyway, that all brings us into
feminist icon Alex Cooper.
So you're going to have to explain who Alex Cooper is for those of us who...
She's a podcaster. She's a provocateur. She says raunchy things. She has a body count that would make Genghis Khan jealous.
Whoa.
She is Alex Cooper, host of the Call Her Daddy podcast, which like Kamala Harris did the Call Her Daddy.
I just want to correct the record. I Googled it. She allegedly has said that her body count's only 8. So not Genghis Khan.
Allegedly.
Yeah, she's pregnant, expecting first baby with husband Matt Kaplan.
Whose daddy is it? Why are we calling someone's dad? Is it her daddy that we're calling?
That's her podcast.
But what does that mean? Call her daddy?
It just took off. I don't know why
do you call someone's dad in the podcast?
Why did she name her podcast Call Her Daddy?
She was she started on YouTube. She had a really popular YouTube that took off. Dave Portnoy found her. He basically gave her the opportunity to launch her podcast career on
oh my gosh,
on his network, and they had a falling out. So she had a co-host that was on there. They had a huge falling out, and she went and launched her own podcast on her own thing, and she has made $1 zillion.
It's apparently called Call Her Daddy because it comes from the PG-13 warning here that men will say "call me daddy" to assert dominance over women. And it flips the dynamic. So there's a trans subplot to this. The idea is that we have to call her, the woman, daddy because she is the one in control of her relationships.
Right. So it's right there, like a female dominance kind of mindset. And funny enough to what Tyler's saying, I think it was the original co-host that came up with the phrasing of that, whereas Alex Cooper wanted it to say "call him daddy."
Okay.
So it's just girl bossing. Girl bossing in the bedroom.
So basically it's like, I think there's like the 3-headed horseman or whatever. What is it? It's the 3 horsemen of the apocalypse. So we're going to talk about like the 3 horsemen of the apocalypse.
There were 4 horsemen though.
4 horsemen. There, it's even better because I'm always struggling to get 3. 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. It's like wokeism, mass immigration. Feminism is definitely on there, and now we got the Islamification of America. Those are my 4. You could have you could substitute one of those. I feel really strongly about feminism being one of the truly corrosive elements that exist and are propagated and celebrated in Western civilization, Western culture, especially America. So this is a fun topic for me because I find her particularly galling. But now she's pregnant.
Yes, she's pregnant and married.
Yeah, so what do we do with that? Do we celebrate it? Do we? I don't know. I tend to listen. A lot of people are like, well, this is perfect for high status women because they get to go have their raunchy podcast and lead everybody astray, and then they get to hold out even as they get into older years. I don't know how old she is. Is she in her early 30s? I would presume something like that. And they get to have their cake and eat it too, while they let all their peons astray. Telling them to girl boss. And so some people are upset about this. Some people are celebrating it. I like to think Charlie would probably celebrate it because he did that with Taylor Swift. He's like, God bless you, Taylor. I hope that your marriage to Travis Kelce makes you happy and more conservative.
Well, so the reason people are worried about this and it's getting discussed is that she's definitely pushed this big female empowerment narrative. And I think that is actually what does make her a little different from Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, she was actually kind of, even though she had a large number of famous boyfriends, she was kind of trad in her orientation. She makes songs about, falling in love forever and wanting to be with someone forever. And she's always been chasing that and finally got it. Whereas Cooper it's often a raunchy podcast that is about, it's about sex stuff. It's about, jumping from relationship to relationship. And the idea is that she is pulling the successful Houdini act of being allegedly, you thought she had a Genghis Khan-like number throughout her 20s,
Wilt
and then she hits.
Wilt Chamberlain
She hits
number.
30. She's 31 right now.
Yeah.
She hits 30 and then suddenly says, "Oh, well, I want to settle down." Immediately does land high quality, relatively appealing, attractive husband, has kids, and that this is going to lead a large number of women astray to think I can copy this same life script. And if you're not carrying a $60 million Spotify deal, it's less likely to work out for you.
It's a total
Or will
rug
it?
pull. It's a total rug pull to her audience, the same way as if she had done like one of those meme coin scams, right? She runs this podcast all about, have free sex and go do whatever. And let's talk about
Jack,
all the sex he had.
Are you calling this the pump and dump?
I am. It's a total pump and dump. It's an Alex Cooper pump and dump where she's come in and she's making money, and it's consistently rated, I think, one of the highest podcasts out there. Mm-hmm. And she presented by Sparkling Ice, and it's like, got mainstream
advertising,
backing, because we just put lust and fornication everywhere these days, and yet she doesn't actually do it herself. So she's preaching this to everybody while also, not following the lifestyle that she is popularizing, and that's why it's a scam, and that's why I think it's messed up.
She didn't practice what she preached,
But
or
is it-
did
is
she?
it though?
I just want to insert this. Call Her Daddy was ranked the second most popular podcast in Spotify from 21 to 24.
It's pretty big behind Rogan,
So
of course.
did she
Behind
rug
Rogan,
pull or did she not? I don't follow her
I
stuff.
feel-
So did she say like you can only get married if the guy submits to you and is a 9 or a 10 or above and has his own career? And so I'm just asking the question: did she rug pull? Did she pump and dump? Or is this like?
Here's the thought crime. Here's the thought crime, right? And I saw some people. I forget what the original post was when we were chatting about it. Maybe I can find it, but the original one was saying that here's the issue: is that this advice works if you are a 9 or a 10, but if you're like a 5 or a 6, if you're a mid, then this is actually like the worst possible advice for you, and you're just leading all these people astray. And here they are listening to your podcast, thinking that it's going to work. But those are the ones who are going to find themselves hitting, mid 30s to late 30s to 40s saying, hey, wait a minute, why isn't anyone calling me daddy? And suddenly the guys in their peer, her age range are all going to be going for Zoomers. They're going to be dating girls that are like in their 20s because they're not interested. So it doesn't actually work. And yes, actually, like we were talking about, male status earlier, female status does exist. Pretty privilege is real. It's just real. And that is the thought crime, ladies and gentlemen.
So I'm looking it up, Jack. It says, so I just asked AIs, and it says, yes, Alex Cooper has frequently downplayed or expressed ambivalence about marriage and children in the past, particularly in her 20s and early podcast years, while heavily promoting hookup culture, casual sex, and prioritizing career fun over traditional milestones.
Well, I'm gonna want citations though, because
she says they have them right here.
Gina
People
Florio.
Magazine,
Gina Florio had the original one, by the way.
Instagram, her Instagram, her TikTok.
Gina Florio.
She commonly said online that she would never get married. So part of the reason why people have lost their minds on this is she had said numerous times that she would never get married, and then now feels this way.
Yeah, she said she couldn't fathom motherhood in her 20s. This is what Jack's point maybe is like more hinging on. She said her podcast built a brand around sexually explicit content, advice like use him before he uses you. Don't catch feelings. Embracing casual hookups and viewing relationship as a chaotic roller coaster, quote unquote, without long-term commitments. This resonated with and influenced many young female listeners in their teens and 20s. Then she talked about shifting views. Later, for example, developing baby fever in recent years after meeting her husband, Matt Kaplan, and episodes where she discusses timelines for marriages and kids with him. But early content leaned heavily into anti-settling down vibes. So they got married in 2024, around age 29 or 30, can't decide, and recently announced their first pregnancy as of May.
Yeah, I really don't think this is a rug pull. I think this is actually the peak of feminist propaganda, radical feminist propaganda, because it's totally that. It's always her maximum autonomy. She can be against it in her 20s and then she can just change her mind later in her life, and she's able to, again, pull the Houdini act of gets married, has kids, and can pivot in her life trajectory. And in real life, as we know, because, I mean, Charlie talked about this all the time going on campus, in real life, for a lot of people, if you want to get married, especially as a woman, it has to be a priority early on. You have to build and take steps towards that right away. And if you think, I'm going to build my career until my early 30s and then start focusing on this, there's example after example where it's gone really badly. They've
Even
been
if you
unable
do
to
find
find
your guy,
someone.
you might not be able to have babies.
Yeah, exactly. You might
Charlie's
might
line
be too late.
What was the line? It was more women shouldn't be pursuing their PhD. They should be pursuing their MRS.
Mm-hmm. He was a big believer in the MRS degree. Took a lot
MRS
of
degrees
crap.
are great.
Yeah, the MRS degree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a good line.
You know, speaking of which, that is
look-
interesting because there is a stat that says that 62% of all degrees now are going to women, which is
62%.
62%. Show
Real
the graph.
quick,
2/3.
Before we jump into this, we got 2 donation messages I want to hit because Kyrie donated $5 and said Christian families need to be having lots of children and teaching them the values and blessings of the Bible.
It's true.
That is how we combat these insanities. And Zuzu chimed in
Amen.
again and she said Alex Cooper should bring her husband and kids to Pizza Hut.
Well,
Exactly.
That is a good point, Zuzu. I'm going to say this though. Most famous marriages, like people who are famous, they're largely business relationships. And again, I know a lot of people say that, whatever. Like people have made that, and I'm not saying that I don't hope that she's not in love and that she doesn't have kids and like, slows down and like wants to just like spend time with her kids and all of that. I hope that that's the case with Alex Cooper. The reality is that I actually feel bad for a lot of these famous couples because their kids usually take the brunt of it, and this is why I think a lot of kids like that come from famous couples end up so screwed up. And you'll see this. Some famous people will take a step back from the spotlight, and they'll raise their kids, and they'll stop, and they'll slow down, and they'll like focus on motherhood or fatherhood or whatever, right? Sometimes that's not the case. I just don't know. I mean, we'll see like what happens with Alex Cooper, but I think the point is like she's not living on the same planet that most of us are living.
Well, so Jack's point is, I think, pretty well made, where he said this live script will work for 9s and 10s, maybe 7s and 8s too. But if you are maybe not so attractive and you get into your 30s and you're not so rich and successful, I don't think you have nearly as many options as Alex Cooper, and so she is selling a bad vision of reality, of what's lived reality and experience. But the upside here, if we're like, my glass can be half full, I can be honest about the fact that I think this is a terrible life script to sell to young women, but she's got this huge audience by being authentic and being raunchy and being real and saying it out loud, saying it like it really is or whatever. Well, they're also hearing her go through this evolution of getting baby fever, getting married. And so she, the upshot is maybe she's got millions of fans that are like, oh, now I want to get married too. So, okay. All right. Hopefully they can skip the premarital sex stuff. I agree with our listener that was like, Christians need to have lots of babies. Completely agree with that. We're going to outbreed them, folks. That's part of the strategy. So I've played this.
You rebel, start a family.
But I played this clip before to tie in this 62% of all degrees. But I think it's so important. This is Rachel Wilson, a cult feminism author, and she's talking about why women are so unhappy. So keep in mind now, 62% of all college degrees are going to women, and now think about why they're unhappy. Cut 41.
Women just overall reporting dissatisfaction, unhappiness, a feeling of being really torn, trying to have it all, trying to have a career and be a career woman and also have a family and do all of that. Women don't know what to do with relationships because on the one hand, they want men who make more than they do. They want men who are higher achieving than they are, yet this creates a paradox, whereas women have become the #1 earners of college degrees. They have now got salaries that compete with men, and they've got more equality than ever before. They're finding that the men are not suitable to marry. They're finding that, they just can't find a guy who's on their level or higher, which is what they really want.
So now think back to the baby boom where you had the GI Bill and the status of men from earnings, college degrees, and all these things, job opportunities was here and women were down here, and you had this huge baby boom as a result. Now that script is flipped and we have a fertility crisis. We're losing our freaking playgrounds at McDonald's. We got all kinds of societal problems. The men and the women, they don't like each other. The expectations of the relationships are off. You talk to any of our Turning Point kids, by the way, it's the number one thing they'll talk to you about. Dating sucks. It's awful. You get a few that have found somebody or whatever, but it's like things are out of whack. And I think I love that Rachel Wilson clip because she talks about this driving force of feminism. We want equality. Now, okay, you got it. You got beyond equality. You got 62% of all the college degrees, and you're unhappier than you've ever been. Maybe people like Alex Cooper need to rethink the script that they're selling. That's all I'd say.
Maybe our traditions have been traditions that have been handed down from generation on generation for a reason. Maybe there's a reason that all of civilization was built certain ways, and successful civilizations have maintained those traditions, and maybe we shouldn't screw around with them. I mean, you go to bring it full circle, like you look at where the society was in the 1970s and 1976, and I think we can all look at that and say, that just looks like a better time. It just looks like a better time.
Well, Jack, I have to say it because the Bible says it. Say not, why were the former days better than these? For it is not from wisdom that you ask this. But I would agree. There's certain parts about our history.
No, but that's what I'm saying is I don't, I'm not some curmudgeon who just sits there and says, the past was better. I look at those things and I say, hey, can we bring any of this forward? What can we do to make our material conditions today better?
You know what I miss?
To make the streets better. And I just bought freaking Pizza Hut, okay?
Yeah, you did a good thing. You know what I miss, Jack? I miss the monoculture. We're all old enough to remember America that had a monoculture. And it was cool. It was great to know that it didn't matter who I was walking down on the street, that they were going to be watching the same shows and reacting to the same news. There's benefits of having bifurcated culture or, siloed cultures. You get it's maybe more individually satisfying, but there's something beautiful about having a culture that's all singing from the same hymnal, if you would. Like, for example, Matt Walsh made this point, and I thought it was spot on. I'm watching a show that he happens to be watching, so I read the tweet, and it was about Widow's Bay, which is on Apple. It's phenomenal.
Was that good? I was thinking about checking that out.
It's excellent. It's so good. It's so funny, and it's actually scary. It's like a comedy horror, but a show that good deserves to be monoculture good, but it's not. It's probably got 1/30 of the culture watching.
I'll bring it up though. How many shows?
It's got the dude
how
from
many
the Americans
shows
in
from
it.
when we had a
Nice.
monoculture for television do people still watch?
Say what? Say
How many
that again?
shows from when we still had a monoculture do people still watch?
Seinfeld. I still watch
Seinfeld is from the 90s. That's when the monoculture is already
those-
starting to fray
No,
apart.
but the monoculture was
No,
still
but Blake,
there.
those
Come
shows
on.
are
1,000
consistently
compared to MASH, and how many
No,
people
wait,
still watch
wait.
MASH?
No, but I can answer this question.
Well, MASH is
Those shows
dated
are
now.
consistently the number one shows on streaming. Tyler, I think we were talking about this at one point. That Friends reruns when they go up on Netflix, or
Yeah,
what
Friends
we would
is
call
still super
syndication before.
popular.
Friends was
They're,
terrible.
it's literally number
It's
one
watchable, though.
every single time.
Friends is not funny.
Okay.
It is a good thing that
I'm
if
not
that,
saying
if that
Friends
is the
is
best
funny.
argument for the
I am
monoculture,
not
goodbye
defending
defending
monoculture.
Friends in any way. I'm not a Friends guy.
No,
Friends is very
terrible.
much a Seinfeld guy.
is good. Seinfeld's a good show,
But
I
it is
think
extremely popular still.
I think people
including
say,
internationally.
People say they're depressed that the monoculture went away, but
I'm not
again,
saying I'm depressed. I just miss it a little
I
bit.
think personally, I think it's actually pretty good that there's a wider variety of cultural material that is available, and you can still, if you want to get a community of people that's into it, you can still find these things. You can find them online for starters. And do you lose the fact that you can't go into work and say, hey, what did you guys think of TV show number 7 last night? And everyone's like, yeah, I love TV show number 7.
So
personally, I like that I don't have to watch TV show number 7 necessarily.
Okay. I think these things could be matters of degrees. I think monoculture is probably, if I had to just approximate, 70% good, 30%
And-
maybe it's better that you have. So
and-
you're pointing out, you're being contrarian here, but it's I still think it's better for culture to all be sharing, have shared experiences, because it brings us together in small ways that are important, right? So the last sort of cultural moment that we have all together is the Super Bowl, right? I mean, people talk about this. that's a valuable thing. I don't know. It makes America feel like America. It makes my neighbor feel like
Andrew,
my neighbor.
I think if you recall, it's them screwing around with the Super Bowl that let us to be able to do what we did earlier this year.
But I will be the first to say that I don't want that. But I actually would prefer they don't screw it up because I want everybody to.
Do you think America had more of a monoculture?
That was our goal.
Do you think America had more of a monoculture in 1990 or in 1930?
I would think 1990 probably.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So like what I would say is if you went
19...
back 50 years, the complaint from conservatives like us would be about the loss of any regional identity in the United States.
Okay, this is
We've lost regional accents.
No, I like this.
Regional culture. It used to be country music, for example.
That's actually a really good.
Totally a regional thing.
I concede this point. I wasn't thinking about it like that, and I actually totally agree with it. I would say, okay, so for 1930s, right, we had more regional culture. And there was also like a huge ethnic boom of immigration that we were absorbing.
We used to have ethnic churches.
It stopped at the Great Depression through the end of World War II, basically. Okay, so you had about 15 years of just like zero immigration.
The Great Depression, 1930 to maybe 1930 to 1980, 90 or so, is probably the peak in world history for creating national monocultures because you're able to have mass communication. But it's still resource intensive to generate those. So you have only
we're getting the worst of both worlds, though, because we're like
a lot of this is media driven too.
I was going to say we're getting the worst of both worlds, though, because we're eroding regional culture. Because, as you said earlier, Indians outside of Dallas are still watching India.
Play the music.
Yeah, exactly. Cue the music. They're still watching the content from their home country. Right, but so they're not really Texas. You don't get the charm of a Texan in their brisket. You're getting something totally different. Nor are they a part of a monoculture. So nor can I share something national with them. It's all FUBAR at that point. So the point is, I'd rather have a monoculture that we can all share at least in this day and age, as opposed to just bifurcated where regions don't even matter.
So Marshall McLuhan, if you read any of his stuff, he just like totally in the 1960s called all of this. And, he pointed out how the rise of television, to Blake's point, led to the loss of regional culture. But then he also predicted that as information became more democratized and that the sort of like the mechanisms by which we create media would become easier and cheaper to the methods of production as it were, means of production as it were, that we would become bifurcated and that monoculture would be smashed apart again. And so what we're seeing now is we, rather than have regional identity, so we have regional identity, which still exists, and you see that a lot with sports teams more than anything else. Then we also have our general monoculture, which has taken the biggest hit, and that's why we have the loss of the national pride of being an American that we're currently fighting to get back, right? To get back to that bicentennialism, which also coincided with the probably the peak of that monoculture, or at least proceeding to that peak of the 1990s. And then with the rise of the internet, now we are subdividing yet again, but we're not subdividing by region. We're subdividing also by sort of like internet identity. So it's sort of like, it's like you're getting into these trans identity. That's what I identify as, or identify as this crazy group that I found on TikTok, and then I go into the Discord chat, and now that's feminism. My identity.
And we got feminism. So so Angela's saying we should wrap because we've gone over time, but this has been a really fun conversation. Lots to think about. But I'll put it to you guys, the crew. Do we want to wrap on a CK clip talking about how feminism has failed women, or do we want to wrap on a Pizza Hut clip?
Do we have a Charlie clip talking about Pizza Hut? Charlie wasn't. She said Charlie wasn't allowed to eat pizza, so he would.
Even when he was a kid?
Well, no. I'm just saying he wouldn't eat it today. He would just say that pizza was really unhealthy, and he would probably say everyone should just eat ground beef and lettuce. And
how about we do this?
It's cheese, it's bread, it's meat. I mean, it's like all the food groups right there.
Bread. Yeah. Do you think Charlie's gonna eat bread? Let's go out on Charlie.
It's been a while. So this is so remember.
Yeah, go out on Charlie, of course.
62% of all degrees going to women, and they're happier than they've ever been. And Charlie understood this. Until next Thursday, keep committing thought crimes.
Feminism is the glaring thing in front of us where we have fertility rates down, we have marriage rates down, we have unhappiness up, and we did something in the 1960s out of the universities of Bretty Friedan and Gloria Steinem and all these feminists that basically said you're trapped in a home, go get a job, freeze your eggs, take birth control, and all of a sudden women are way unhappier than they were 40 years ago. And I just have to ask the question, why is that? Is it working? And maybe there are biological differences between men and women that we should respect, and that deep down a lot of women want to get married and have children. In fact, we should applaud it, and we should support it, and we should say it means nothing if you're going to go be a CEO of some shoe company or be some banker in London. What matters if you raise children and you have something to pass down long after you're gone.